Ah. Hello, everybody. Yeah. So if you didn't like any talks, then it's also my fault, right? So I don't know. I can do it in English. I can do it in Russian. There are two people who don't know Russian at all. The one guy who pretends to not know in Russian, but actually he does know. But the rest of you, I don't know which language. English. Is it okay? All right. So I'm gonna talk about something that is very, very hot and controversial to some extent. Bots, right? We are in 2016, right? And it seems like bots are everywhere. Everybody is talking about bots, and specifically about chatbots. It's like small programs that talk to you like a human being, pretend to be smart, but actually stupid. Right? These are all the different messaging platforms that exist in the world, like the top ones. WhatsApp and Messenger has almost 1 billion users each. QQ and WeChat is somewhere in 700 million. Skype and Viber in 300. Line, BBM, and Telegram are in 100. But everybody who is blue actually had bot API for quite some time, but these two, Messenger and Skype, just announced bot API this week. So it seems like bots are literally everywhere. You can get about 3/4 of internet users talking to your bot by implementing all the APIs, right? So there is a gold rush. Everybody started to talk about bots. Everybody wants to build a bot. The reason is simple, because we all want to write a chat bot and get gazillions of money, right? That's the promise. Why is that, right? Because we used to have app stores, and everybody was trying to write an app and get rich, right? But app stores have this discoverability problem, right? In order for your app to get some users, you either have to be featured, right, by the App Store, or be a top app in some category, or be pre-installed. Go to the phone manufacturer and agree to get your app installed already, or maybe through your career, right? So, and as time goes on, the window of opportunity for new apps started to shrink from weeks to hours, to days, and now it's hours. Like, if your app didn't make it to the top in 1 or 2 hours since publishing, which you actually don't really control, you get published when Apple publishes you, not when you approve the publishing, right? So if you made a mistake during this couple of hours, your app is dead. So this is actually a viable marketing option to start an app today. You have to win a WWDC ticket, because you can't just buy it, you have to win it. There are so many people who want to go there. Then you have to show a prototype of your app to an Apple engineer and listen to that wonderful phrase, "Oh, cool, we'll feature you." That's when you use some kind of cool API or do something amazing with your app. Right? So people are actually counting on this, counting of knowing people who know someone inside Apple who is a developer and will be at WWDC looking at your applications. So that's a crazy market. So instead of App Store, all these bot platforms, all these messaging platforms actually promise us something like a Messenger bot store, and you have the opportunity again. All right, get to the top, earn money, cash out, sleep well, right? So same thing will happen eventually. You have to be featured, you have to be at the top of some category, but there are no categories yet. There are no featured bots yet. In some platforms there are, but not everywhere, right? But there are some challenges. Your bot will get to your contact list, and instead of competing with other bots, it would have to compete with people we talk to, the groups that we have. So, getting there, it can be annoying for users to looking for a friend or a colleague or something, and just all these bots that you have installed are in the same list. So there should be some changes there. So the market is interesting, but there are some challenges ahead. And 80% of apps today that were ever published to the platform are never downloaded. Like the developers themselves, they do download their apps, trying it out, begging friends and family to download apps as well. But after that, after a small initial window of opportunity, like I said, they just die. They just never exist. These zombie apps that you cannot see in the App Store. So if you know me, you know that I don't really care about gazillions of money, but I do care about sustainability. So when I look at bots today, I'm asking the question, what will happen 5 years from now to bot platform? If I write my bot today, 5 years from now, what this bot will do? Will it still be there? Will people actually be using a bot? And another thing about sustainability is like, what happened 5 years before now? So this is my phone. This model is actually 3 years old. It's a gorgeous looking blue. I've never, during the last couple of years, there were no phones built with this kind of blue color. They are either like marine, like dark blue or greenish blue, so I cannot change this phone. So I love this phone. It's a very, very good model. And when I leave it on the couch, I can clearly see it where it is, right? I never lose it. But like my anti-hype approach to that is this. My phone broke this year. And instead of looking for the new model, I actually decided to repair this, right? So I found a company, a repairing service. I called them, and they scheduled a pickup with me. I got an SMS. When my phone got to them, they sent me an SMS that, yes, we got your phone. We are investigating what's wrong with your phone. 2 days later, they called me again to agree on a repair, right? And we agreed on a price. And after that, I got an SMS with a message with the price and account details. So I go to my online bank, and I paid for my phone repair. And a couple of days, they called me back to schedule a delivery. And that was it. The point here is I've never met people who were actually responsible for fixing my phone. They didn't have an app. They didn't have an e-commerce site. I didn't have to go online. So, but they still had a successful business with me. And I asked them, I actually called them again and asked about it because I was interested. And turned out that they've been doing that for 7 years. And this business is a very profitable, very, very successful. It's the largest repairing company in Ukraine. It operates in almost every major city, and they're great. I highly recommend them. So today, when you look at your business, you ask yourself, do you need an app, right? Because, and the answer is usually yes, right? It's usually when you talk to your customer, when you talk to your product team, they usually start with saying, we need an application. We need to build something smart, right? Because since the dawn of software back in 70s and 60s, we were trying to move our traditional business processes to this new, bright, shiny world of computing, right? But computers at that time, they were largely isolated machines. We were taking the paper, we transferred the paper to digital, and we were focusing on stuff that we could actually do with disconnected machines. So we were trying to we would create an accounting software, and it would be software that a person would run in a machine, and that software would be dedicated to that particular person. It would expect this person to come over every morning and start using that, and late in the evening, that person would just switch the machine off and go home. That was it. That was the scenario. So that was a solo work. That was something that we did anticipate networking, but the networking part was always an afterthought. So the things that we were moving on to digital world were things that we could do, that we would do all day, like filling up tax reports, or like selling tickets or something like that. That's what we would do, right? So since that time, when you would create an app, an application, you would seek users' attention, because if users' attention is focused on your application, then a user is actually dedicating all his solo time to you. And if you want to have more users, you have to actually convince them to spend as much time as possible in your app. Sounds familiar, right? So when we moved to consumer web in 90s and then in 2000s, we had this formula, right? If a user spends more time in my app, it spends more attention, it gives it more attention, we would get more ad revenue. That's what social networks are all about, right? You open a Facebook and you just, and a couple of hours later you think, like, maybe I should do work instead, right? So people were building yet another social networks today because they think about this. They know the formula. Do you think it's a good idea to build a social network today? No, right? Because these applications come up from the idea that a user is actually wanting to invest his time in our application. The user actually would open it up just because it exists, right? No one opens Facebook because Facebook told them, right? We open Facebook just because we know it exists and we want to use it. That's the basis. But there are so many hours in a day. There are so many, so much text you could read during the day. So many images you can look at. So many videos you could watch. So at some point, the formula started to get broken. And right now, we are in this dawn of new thinking, right? New approach of building applications. Not seeking attention, but actually giving as much value as possible while consuming as little time as possible. So instead of like convincing a user come over to your app and lose time there, you actually want your user to get as much value from your app as possible without actually taking over his attention. Like, I have a fitness tracker here. I actually count my footsteps every day. So I never open this app. I just receive a push notification from this app every time I reach my daily goal, right? So this app takes literally a second or even a split second of my time without actually requiring me to go in and look into it. And yet, I receive so much value from it every day. I keep using it. It drains my battery sometimes too much, but I can agree with these disadvantages, right? So there was this old marketing saying, like, there is an app for that, the famous Apple campaign for that. And like, when you hear there is an app for that, you are not looking for opportunity to use this app. You don't really care, right? Because when you hear a word app, you would think like, oh, it will take me 40 seconds to download if I'm lucky. It will probably ask me to sign up, and it would be stupid enough to send me an email, so I have to switch off from this app, find this confirmation link that can probably came back to me in like 5-6 minutes instead of a couple of seconds because reasons, right? And then there is a learning curve of learning how this app works because all the UIs today look different, and yeah, It's either icons or letters, but those like nodes don't tell you anything, right? And when you need, then all you need is a single action, and app is clearly an overkill. So for stuff like buying a conference ticket, checking up your weather, ordering a taxi, the app is clearly something you don't really want. Unless you, for example, buy conference tickets like every morning, or, you know, like using some advanced weather program to check for tornadoes and all that. I don't know, but most of the time. My phone repair story, it actually took me 10 minutes. Most of the time, some of the time was phone calls, but mostly it was getting dressed to meet the delivery person to get my phone back or give the phone to me, right? Because I was at home, right? So app today is almost always the wrong answer. It's something you don't really want. It's something your users don't really want, right? So if your service has an app today, no one would care, right? And you could ask me, what about websites, right? Websites, they're clearly better because it takes only 2 seconds to download. But after 2 seconds, you have to spend another 20 seconds to download these shiny fonts, right? Because fonts are beautiful, and you cannot convince your designer that it's a stupid idea in 2016 to use a custom font, right? And then this website, it would assume that you are not smart enough. It would let you take a tour of all the features, not the one you need, but like, yeah. And it will probably still ask you to sign up and click that confirmation link, right? And it will show you a helpful reminder about the famous European Union cookie law, because you have to know it like 20 times a day, because your memory is actually not that good. And sometimes you have to switch to desktop version to get to the feature you really need. My internet provider, when you call them, first of all, you have to find their phone number. And to do that, you would go to their website. And then when internet goes away, I have a 3G here, so I would use my phone to get to the internet provider website. Their mobile version doesn't show you the phone number. The single thing I need the most, and it's like the largest internet provider in Ukraine, right? And they will also tell you that you have an app, same website, packaged, filled with push notifications that you don't really need, right? And where's that one feature I actually needed from the website? After seeing all these cookie laws, apps, pop-ups, and all that, you just don't remember, and you have to find a search box, find it, try to find it, and instead, like today, I tried to like to pay for my phone services from the phone, right? And they show me the news about live sell instead of showing me the form how to refill my account, right? So website is clearly better because sometimes you don't have these cookie law pop-ups because they know you are not from the EU. Sometimes they will not show you this app drop-down, and sometimes the feature is there and there are no custom fonts, but it's still an overkill in many, many cases, right? So there is a shift away from both websites and applications to something new, and we are looking for that, and that's what is happening now. So the shift is coming from attention to alerts, from stream to notification, right? When you want your user to take an action, to take part in some process, you just ping that user only at that time. But other than that, you never bother that user, right? And we want to automate as much of the process as we can. We cannot. This company couldn't schedule a delivery without calling me and asking when I'll be available, right? So they had to call me, but they didn't have to call me to like say to tell me that the repair is done already, but we will deliver it in the future, or like telling me about every step of what was happening with my phone, right? So there are a couple of scenarios that we could think about that we could potentially automate. Sales is an obvious one, right? So a lot of times sales starts with automatic cold email. You send an email to a company, to someone in a company, in a higher ups, and you want a reply. And when the reply is got, you would use a third-party service, some cheap workforce to actually like handle the replies. They would use canned responses, like for typical questions, and they will try to schedule a call with the real salesperson, pretending to be that real salesperson, right? So after the call is scheduled, you would put it into the calendar of that salesperson. And that salesperson at that time, this is when he would come in. And that person would just come to work early in the morning. He or she would see a list of conversations for today with all the details necessary, with all the backstory, everything, and just do his or her work in the most efficient manner, right? Email actions is another thing, right? When you send an email where this click here to do this, to agree, click here to do this, right? Without actually forcing you to go somewhere, right? There is a story about a logistics company in the US. That company was using subcontractors to move goods from place to place. So instead of like having a big complex UI, what they do is as they get orders from customers, they would put it into the system. And after that, the system would try to match the goods locations with potential subcontractors who would actually carry the goods from place to place. And if the match is found, they would send an email with like, hey, there is an order, you have to like deliver it in 3 days. If you agree, click here. And after you click, they would send another email with all the documents required for actually transferring goods from place to place. So that system would work automatically in 99% of the cases, instead of begging users to actually pay attention to that system. So, and for the first half a year, that company didn't have any user interface at all. It was all emails, it was all like put the documents in right places and right folders. And if you cannot do a UI, complete UI, get away without UI at all, you could piggyback on third-party UIs, right? We have calendars, we have email clients, we have Salesforce and other CRM systems. So, and even if we have to create a UI, we could rethink our UI in some other manner. There is a company in Kiev which does social media monitoring, and their traditional UI, so they would, people would look into messages on social networks when people would, when users would talk about certain brands or products or something and react to that. That's the whole idea of social media monitoring. So you would have a dashboard like with some non-actionable data. Today there were X number of people talking about your brand, and some of them were positive, some of them were negative, and that was it, right? You would have reports with how your dashboard looked like a month, a week ago, right? Because that's what reports do. And then you would have a feed, like the raw feed of all the posts, and you could like click on the link, get to that Facebook thread, and argue with users and customers of that product, our brand, like protect it, defend it, or like getting the details why they didn't like it or something, right? So dashboard, reports, feed. A lot of applications actually built on that model. And that's something that we would call a pull model. So a user would actually have to go in, pull the data, analyze the data, and make decisions based on the data he or she got, right? And they would do that all day, and it's tedious, it's boring, and it's counterproductive, right? So with the help of some AI, right, which is very, very simple, sentiment analysis to try to get whether this was positive or negative, then clustering, let's check all the negative messages and try to like see which words they are connected to and try to find something, and then outlier detection. So this cluster is actually much bigger today than it was yesterday, right? So instead of like looking into feed, you will get alerts and automatic reports, and that would be it, right? So a user would get an alert when an outlier would happen, right? And a user would go in and see what is happening exactly. Some people remember that story about the map on, I don't remember, was it Coca-Cola or Pepsi advertising campaign with Crimea as part of Russia and all the uproar that happened in Ukrainian segment of Facebook because of that, right? So that's what you would do, right? You wouldn't actually care about the system unless it notifies you that you screw up somewhere, right? So this kind of user interface, this kind of interaction is actually actionable. You can do something about it, right? And it's useful. It provides value without consuming time. And that's a push model. Hey, you have to look into that. Your CI server, right? Your continuous deployment server. Every time a build fails, that's when you have to step in. Every time build succeeds, you actually don't really care. You care only once when your build is successful after failure. You know that you've done a good job, right? So I invite you to rethink the business process before actually getting into the UI building. So what you should start from, that's a question, right? Because rethinking a business process, programmers don't do that, right? So some people would argue, like, we start with the UI. No, you shouldn't. Then there would be a bunch of UX people who would start, you should start from the UX. And you actually have to start from the process itself. Learn how the company operates. Learn how it does the business, right? And the company operates from a human to another human. It never goes from something automated to something other automated. It goes we write software for human beings, right? So looking into that human edges, like the salesperson, the potential customer, the leads, looking into them can help you rethink the machine part, right? So AI by default and human when necessary is a good mantra to have. It's a good idea about how to build systems today, right? And in best case, you can actually replace a whole company with a simple program that does job, like that logistics system, right? So we would end up creating these money-making wonders, like wonderful machines that are running somewhere in the cloud, that do their thing, and you don't really care about them, and they're actually making money for you and for your customer, all right? So what are the building blocks of these applications, right? APIs is a good place to start. What is available out there? You can have data about like public transport, where the buses are, where the trains are, something like that, and you can use that. You can have weather data, whether there is a storm alert or something. You could do all sorts of things. Any messenger platform will actually do. Today, any messenger platform will help you like getting these APIs to your users. But there are the two interesting ones, which are SMS and phone, because phone is a new email today. Because in 2000s, our internet users were using desktop computers. And we would try to capture their email addresses because we know once we have their email address, they are hooked. We can write them emails, we can bag them, we can communicate with them, they can send us support tickets and all that. Today, most of people actually using internet from their phones. They don't have desktops, or they don't use desktops that often, and on a phone, many of them don't really check email, but they do have the phone number. So SMS, there are not that many messages, only 20 billion per day are sent in today's world. But these messages can actually reach everyone who is connected on this planet. And this is a powerful thing, and this is something you should look into, right? These guys who repaired my phone, they never asked my email address, right? So instead of call us, email us, or something, text us is actually a good idea. Many startups in the US actually start with their marketing to younger generation, to people who actually were born and using iPhones from the very young age. They are accustomed to texting. So asking them to send text, doing something like 1-800, right, or using shortcodes, it's something people know about. People were selling ringtones, and some people still remember how to buy a ringtone today, right? So, and there are AI APIs, and APIs that can help you like do the stem analysis or try to parse your messages and all that. So writing your own AI today is actually similar to writing your own jQuery, in a sense that it might be useful in very rare circumstances. Most of the time, you shouldn't do that, and it's not cool anymore, because everybody is doing that, and everybody is actually, instead of building good, useful products, wasting their time and the company's money on building yet another k-means algorithm or something, right? Instead, pick a library, plug it in, and move on with your life, because that's what you want to do. You want to build a business. You don't want to build the next self-driving car. Someone will eventually do that, but it's not your problem, right? And another thing is these off-the-shelf AI, they fail. You will find tons of blog posts, stories about how someone tried to use a Facebook bot and were not able to actually use it correctly. The bot was super stupid. So using human as an API services, when you can bridge this gap between AI and humans, is actually a good thing. There are tons of them. There are not a single, not one service. There are many services that actually provide such service today. And like piggybacking on third-party UIs is something you can do today and should do today, right? You have calendar and email. You have these widely popular services for like customer support or CRM or like accounting or even like Facebook page for your marketing team. You have these chatbots, you have SMS, and you can actually do business with files today like people did 20 years ago, because everybody understands what Excel is, what PDF is. You can send a PDF, ask it to be signed and sent back. That is something you can actually do, and your system can actually process this, right? So before jumping into drawing a UI and using whatever the latest, coolest framework is out there, talk to your customer, talk to your product team, and talk to your users, and learn what they are trying to accomplish. What are the processes? What are the workflows? And try to optimize them in such a way that the human comes in only when necessary, only when a human can provide a value, right? Bots are great, no UI, push model, and AI by default, human when necessary. And the most important thing is give maximum value in minimal time. That's how we should build systems today and potentially in the far future, like 50 years from now, it's gonna be a similar thing. Build great products. I have to like put something on the back. These are resources. I'm not putting URLs because you can actually Google all that and find it. Chris Messina, the guy who invented hashtags, wrote a post about conversational commerce, about bots. Anderson Horowitz did a great analysis of WeChat, a Chinese messaging platform that actually pioneered the bot thing. Both Listco and Slack apps are two bot app stores that exist today. You could go there, and be inspired by what people actually build. You can actually build a lot of, most products today could be built by like tying in several bots together and getting a platform for you. And there are tons of platforms like dedicated for you building a bot, and I think the bot framework by Microsoft is a good thing, which is they try to like have one common denominator where you can write your logic and connect to any bot services that exist today. And finally, this is a link that I'll probably shouldn't play it, but it's a link, it's a fragment of the keynote at Build 2016 today, where Microsoft showed their vision about how these bots will play with personal assistants. It's a very, very cool interaction. It's something you probably won't need to do today, but it's something you could look forward and build tomorrow, all right? I work at one company that actually does bots for a very, very long time. We are in this business for 3 years. It's extremely interesting, and I'm very, very happy to be with them. So with that, I'm very, very thankful for you all for listening to me. Build great products with maximum value.
Вопросы?
Questions, answers.
Куда вы все убегаете? У нас тут такая еще программа. Давайте вопросы. Ну? О, появился вопрос.
Hello.
Hi.
Actually, I have one питание. Скажи, пожалуйста, which frameworks did you use to build bots? И какие платформы лучше использовать? And we all like to hear more technical часть того, как построить своего бота tomorrow.
That was actually a rather amusing питание, to be honest. And I have to ответить тебе in a similar manner and fashion. So I have this couple of these like links here. So every chat today offers you an API layer, right? And there are companies who started in 2015, in 2014, in 2013, who were trying to get ahead of the market on these communication services. No one was actually thinking about like bots becoming the center of the application, the core part of the application. It was more like value-add services. So if you go to bot list, for example, you would see APIs and tools for building stuff. I recommend Bot Framework because it looks solidly. They have a great grammar engine inside. When they don't understand you, you could like actually plug in a human being, and that human being would mark the phrase, which part is the location, which part is a name, which part is the name of the product or something, and you could like evolve your bots without actually writing more and more code by piggybacking on this software, right? Other than that, any SDK, anything. With SMS, video is like the obvious choice. There are other alternatives that are cheaper, and there are interesting products that like Asterisk and FreeSwitch and stuff like that for working with voice today. I'm actually working with FreeSwitch right now. It's a fascinating product, but it's very complicated and very complex. And but in my opinion, it makes sense to actually relying on third-party software in this regard. Like you rely on AWS today, you should rely on these services. They all provide SLA. If you don't like something, you just switch to something else. So that's it. Technically speaking, one thing that I found fascinating about it is like data entry with bots, right? A bot would ask you a series of questions, but from the coding perspective, it's a form, and you would get a bunch of data all at once, and you would process it as a single form. So it's very simple, very similar to what we do for UI development today. You can actually reuse some of the logic, like reactive extensions, even maybe Redux or something for building your bots today, right? Did I answer your питання? Дякую. Oh, that was awesome. Who else? Like, I learned React, and now you're telling me not to build a UI. What should I do? Right, an obvious question. No? We need more questions. So it turns out that you will not be allowed to leave this room unless 10 people would ask me questions. Right. Yay.
It looks so far from our real life.
It looks so far.
It can be closer to feel it because it's, oh, it's great, nice idea, but I have to Angular my website. How it can be more?
Yes. The key here is like this one. Talk to your customers, talk to your product team, talk to your users. You can convince them today that instead of building yet another Android application, they should probably build a bot instead of building an Android application, right? Or maybe like not even building a bot, but like sending out emails with actionable links in them, right? Do you want to buy this thing? And here's a click to instantly buy it or something, right? So this is, you have to be in a position where you can actually negotiate the product direction with your customer. It's something you should strive to get into. It's like, if you are far ahead, away from that, maybe changing a job is an option. Maybe like talking to your customer or your manager a lot more often is an option. Maybe discussing a faraway roadmap is an option. Maybe like rethinking something and just like writing an email to the owner of the company, like to the CEO, to the CEO themselves, to just understand, hey, I have this vision. Maybe we could allocate some time into trying this idea on a side. It's something you can do, but it's gradually more and more difficult depending on whether you are very close in relationship with your customer or very far. Building and like nurturing relationship with your customer is extremely important. Okay. That's why people like talking about product companies all day long, because they want to be closer to the customers.
It looks like, as for me, for now, more relates to sales in the B2C sector. But how it can be relate to B2B when we make some product for our business?
When I talk about bots, I talk about like something that doesn't have any UI, right? Yeah. For me, some people distinguish, like if it's a chatbot, then it's a real thing. If it talks SMS, then it's not a real thing. It's something, it's not a bot, right? For me, it seems like going away from the user from the visual UI to something different is the key. So API is also a bot, right? And like trying to agree with B2B customers in like automating their workflows as much as possible is actually a good idea. The first thing you can start, for example, we have a customer who actually runs tons of processes through our system. And what we did for them, we, instead of like letting them logging in and getting the reports and looking at dashboards, we actually send the reports from time to time. Like every week, we send 2 reports. One is for performance and SLA, and another one for business with business data. So they can A, like look at the business data, and B, confirm that our system is actually reliable. So these are 2 concerns. One is engineering, another one is more business-like, right? So because of that, we actually have great flexibility. We are moving from one backend to another without actually preserving the UI for this customer, because we can do that, because customer never sees the UI, right? So this kind of things is something you can do, and a good approach is to go out and talk to like your CEO, so you know how your company is actually playing with other companies.
Okay.
Like if the company is actually, it might be that you have a UI and users go in and look into your UI, but maybe like offering them an alternative interface, like push notifications, SMS messages, like something that they can react actionably. Start by offering it as like an alternative, something like something of a value add, and later see how they actually gradually migrate from like going into your application to actually like interacting with your app via these triggers. You want to have triggered UI. You want to have triggers. That's where you start.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And the last one question. Do you use any bots in your real life as a customer?
I use SMS things all the time, so I'm not into messaging at all.
Mobile banking?
Sorry?
Mobile banking? Or what kind
like,
of SMS bots?
Mostly delivery stuff and all that, but I'm a boring person. I use only like 2 or 3 apps total, so my life is programming, and I'm doing programming. And
I just want to find a way how I can feel it more closer as a customer, not from the business perspective, but as a customer to understand much better it works, because I don't use it just mobile banking, maybe, but actually I use mobile app that sends SMS to my bank, and it makes money on my phone. That's it. And I want to find a way how I can feel it better, closer, and to see it. Wow, it works. People use it.
That's a very difficult question, because you are, as a user, you are actually an end user. You are not a company, right? So you are looking at it from B2C position, right? You are looking into it like something that can affect your life, and your life is usually very simple. You have some entertainment on the side, playing games, watching movies, and all that. You do programming, and after that, you would do, and other than that, you would do your day job. You would interact with like external world while like buying tickets for planes, asking for lost luggage in the airport, right? Ordering pizza, and that would be it, right? Ordering taxi. Your life is very, very limited. If you look at this from the business side, if you start a business or like know someone who has a business and talk to that person, he can actually open up some perspective onto what they could potentially have. Like finding people who own a business or like have higher up positions in some business. It could be very small thing like a coffee shop. It could be very large thing like a car dealership or something. It's up to you. Have a good friends.
So
Thank you.
Another question.
yeah,
Another question.
Please.
People are leaving.
Yes.
So first question about lists.
Please,
so-
just one.
Huh?
Really, just one.
Choose one.
Choose one.
You can catch me later.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have another question? Okay.
So as I understand, for example, I'm searching for a phone, and I type like, I want a blue phone, looks like this, and it results with what it's like he's sending me on email PDFs all the time, or at each request.
So this chat platforms, they actually don't really text only. They all have these like pluggable UIs, small
No
UIs.
pictures.
Yes. So you would ask like, I need a blue phone, and it would send you a carousel of pictures with 2 or 3 buttons under each product that you could like examine, like learn more or find similar to this one or something. Just watch some of the presentations that were at F8 Facebook conference or Microsoft Build Conference. These were two big events that had large bot segments.
And what if, for example, you want to return a table of data? So it's like old graphic.
Sorry?
So, for example, if you want to
if you want to show the table to a user,
yeah, in a text form,
table
so
is almost
pseudo-graphics.
Table is almost always a wrong metaphor. People did grids in past because building UIs with these drag and drop buttons and labels and all that was exceptionally tedious. It was very difficult. So people, instead of like building beautiful lists, they were building tables because tables are easy. You drag one component, tell what kind of labels it has, what kind of data it has, and that was it. So people were using that.
But tables is good for sorting, and you see all the numbers.
Tables
Yeah.
are good for sorting, but what if you actually know in what order you want to sort your data? And what if, like showing, like imagine Facebook as a table. It's a good example actually. You have an ID of a news item. Then you have who sent it. Then you have a text and maybe a URL to an image. And then the number of comments. And when you click on the number of comments, you will get a nested grid with all the comments, right? With number of likes and all that. You could do that, but you don't, because it's ugly as hell and it's not usable at all. So you should look into what kind of UI can you build in order to get away from the data you show. Most of the time, a user cares about like top 3 things or like general shape of the data or whatever. So you can show like graphs, you can show lists, you can highlight individual items, you could do all sorts of stuff. Rethinking the UI is always a good idea, no matter how enterprise it looks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.